At exactly 3:09 a.m. the emergency dispatch center received a phone call. The operator answered. No one spoke for several seconds. Then, a frightened voice whispered, "Please, don't let them open the door." The operator asked for the caller's location. There was only silence. Then the call ended. At first, no one thought much about it. But the next night, at exactly 3:09 a.m., the phone rang again. The same terrified voice. The same whispered warning. "Please, don't let them open the door." Then, silence. Within a month, the same call had been received 31 times. Always at 3:09 a.m., always from a different phone number. Always with the exact same words. Police traced every call. None of the numbers existed anymore. Some had been disconnected years ago. Others belonged to people who had died decades earlier. The investigation went nowhere. Eventually, the case was forgotten. Until 32 years later. A famous hotel in the middle of the city was scheduled for demolition. It had been abandoned for decades. Before tearing it down, a construction crew was sent inside to inspect the building. Everything looked normal. Dust covered every hallway, broken furniture filled the empty rooms. Then one worker noticed something strange. The hallway on the 9th floor seemed too short. According to the building plans, there should have been one more room. But there wasn't. Only a blank wall. The foreman laughed. Probably an old renovation. But one worker wasn't convinced. He knocked on the wall. Knock. 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 The sound wasn't solid. It was hollow. The workers grabbed their tools and started breaking through the wall. Behind it, they found a narrow corridor, covered in dust. At the very end, there was a single metal door. Rusty. Locked. And on the door, 3 faded numbers. 909. The workers stared at the metal door. No one knew why it had been hidden behind a concrete wall. The lock had almost turned to rust. One of the workers forced it open. The door slowly creaked. A cold breath of air escaped from inside. It smelled like the room had been sealed for years. But what they found made no sense. The room looked untouched. A bed stood neatly made. A lamp glowed softly beside it. Fresh coffee sat on a wooden table. Steam still rose from the cup. Someone whispered, "That's impossible." There was no electricity in the hotel. It had been disconnected more than 30 years earlier. On the wall, a clock was ticking. Its hands pointed to exactly 3:09. Tick, 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 everything else in the room was silent. Then, a telephone rang. The sound echoed through the room. No one moved. It rang again. And again. Finally, one worker picked up the receiver. He didn't say a word. His face slowly turned pale. The others watched in silence. Then he whispered, "Who is this?" A voice answered. It sounded exactly like him. Same voice. Same breathing. The voice spoke only one sentence. "Don't answer the second call." The line went dead. The worker dropped the phone. Everyone laughed nervously. Someone said it had to be a recording. A prank. Nothing more. Then, exactly 1 minute later, the telephone rang again. This time, no one wanted to answer. The ringing continued. Louder. Longer. One of the younger workers finally stepped forward. "I'll prove it's fake." He picked up the receiver. He listened. His eyes became completely empty. Without saying a single word, he smiled. Turned around. And slowly walked toward the bathroom. He opened the door. Stepped inside. Then quietly closed it behind him. The others waited. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. 1 minute. Nothing. They knocked. No answer. They forced the door open. The bathroom was empty. No window. No second door. No hidden passage. The young worker had simply disappeared. Everyone ran. No one wanted to stay inside the hotel. The room had taken a man, without making a sound. The next morning, the entrance to room 909 was sealed. The workers refused to return. The project was cancelled. People called the hotel cursed. Weeks passed. But one man couldn't forget what he had seen. Every night, he dreamed about the telephone. It always rang at exactly 3:09 a.m. And every time he answered, a voice whispered, "Come back." The dreams became worse. He stopped sleeping. He stopped eating. No matter where he went, he could still hear the ringing. Finally, he gave up. The following night, at exactly 3:08 a.m., he walked back into the abandoned hotel. The building was completely silent. Every step echoed through the empty hallway. The hidden corridor was exactly where they had found it. The metal door was still open. Room 909 was waiting. Everything looked exactly the same. The bed. The lamp. The cup of coffee. Even the clock, tick, 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 3:08. He looked at the telephone. It wasn't ringing. Not yet. He whispered, "I'm not afraid anymore." The room suddenly became ice cold. The lamp flickered. Then, the telephone rang. Once. He slowly picked it up. A frightened voice whispered, "You shouldn't have come back." He recognized the voice immediately. It was his own. But this time, it sounded older. Weak. Broken. "Listen carefully," the voice said. "When the phone rings again, whatever you hear, whatever you see, do not open the bathroom door." The line went dead. Silence filled the room. Then, someone knocked. 3 slow knocks. From inside the bathroom. The knocking stopped. Silence. He stared at the bathroom door. His own voice echoed inside his head. "Whatever happens, do not open it." He stepped backward. Then, the telephone rang again. One single ring. He answered without thinking. There was no voice. Only breathing. Slow, heavy, as if someone was standing only inches away. Then, a whisper. "You're too late." The bathroom door slowly creaked open by itself. Darkness filled the doorway. Nothing moved. Nothing spoke. The room became colder with every second. He wanted to run. But his body refused to move. Then, a figure stepped out of the darkness. It wasn't a monster. It wasn't a ghost. It was him. Older. Pale. His clothes were torn. His face looked exhausted. The older version of himself slowly raised the telephone. "I answered the second call," he whispered. "And now, I'm the one making the first." His hands began to disappear. His body faded into the darkness. Before he vanished completely, he looked straight into his own eyes. "You still have one chance. Leave. Forget this room. And never come back." The lights went out. Everything became silent. When the lights returned, the room was empty. The bed was gone. The lamp was gone. The coffee had disappeared. Only the telephone remained. Still resting on the table. Still waiting. The hotel was demolished 3 days later. Workers searched every piece of concrete. They never found room 909. It was as if it had never existed. But every year, on the same night, at exactly 3:09 a.m., emergency operators receive a single phone call. A terrified voice whispers, "Please, don't let them open the door." Then the line goes dead. And somewhere, a telephone begins to ring.